Good evening, everyone, and welcome to round 2 of the Monkey Mafia Esports League F1 division tonight. It takes on the Marina-based street circuit here in Singapore. It's a track that is, I would almost say universally liked in the F1 community. It's gone under a lot of recent changes that have definitely aided the quality of racing. And we find ourselves on the street of Singapore tonight for round 2 of the inaugural season. Hotspot with you on the call. At the moment, looks a decently clear night here in Singapore. Hopefully someone will have tagged me if the weather says otherwise. Only 13 drivers on the grid so far tonight. While we have a second here and nobody's coming out on track as I say that. Got one of the two Aston Martin drivers on their way out. I believe it's going to be that of... It's not Lancey. It's his teammate of Gasboy. In the Aston Martin, let's go ahead and check our drivers and constructors standings. Naturally, Lancey, despite him being a reserve role, finds himself atop the table at 33 points. Jariah Kosla in the... Ferrari next up behind at 28, Gasboy. Lancey's Aston Martin teammate for tonight at 26, Beamer. And the Haas at 25. Pingolo, 22, his teammate at Gab, right behind him at 21. 19 for the Red Bull of Cynical. 16 for the Williams of Fireballer, who, after Stewart's findings last week, moved up to P8. A-Dub, despite not being here, finds himself 9th. 10th is Mini. Lightwork 11th, Osmanian 12th, 13th Fallen Demon, 14th Slayerized, George Masterguy, P. Gonzalez, and Valhalla Wolf. Everybody from Mini on downwards did not get an opportunity to finish last week's Grand Prix. As far as the constructor standings are concerned, McLaren at the top at 43, 10 points ahead of the Alpine. That's 33. Ferrari third, 28. Aston Martin 2 behind them. In fact, they're tied with Mercedes at 26 for the fourth spot. Haas 6th at 25, Red Bull 19, Williams 18, AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo still have yet to record a point so far this season. We are on board with the Aston Martin of Gasboy, who will take us for this lap of the Marina-based street circuit. Obviously looking a little bit different than it has in years past, but the changes they have made have severely aided racing. Definitely made this track very fun to watch, as if it wasn't already. And I think Gasboy has only just avoided pulling a colossal Lance Stroll-type accident there. Ironic, as he is also in the Aston Martin. We're now along with Osmanian Devil, as he'll be the first driver on a timed lap now through the first couple of corners here. Once again, this is a street circuit, so it's kind of difficult getting onto the throttle. You really have to be slightly tentative, considering that, there's no camber, there's no, elevation in the track to help you out. It's pure flat. So acceleration slightly difficult. Looks like Osmanian, I don't want to say this isn't a timed lap, but as you can see, his battery is still 100% here, so this is not a full push lap for him, but he's purple sector 1 so far, in now towards turn 8. Once again, a little squirrely getting on throttle, as you can see, through turn 9. I would say that's a good line to copy. Now here through turn 10, you see that little orange part of the wall there. If you cut down as close as you can shave off about a tenth, but you carry more speed if you go the wide way round through the Singapore Sling. Over the bridge, in towards turn 13. Very difficult left-hander. Sure to catch some out by surprise. It's almost done there to Osmanian. He's almost clobbered the outside wall. But for now, has DRS up in towards turn 14, which will then be the right-hander. Now, this is where the track is different. Turn 14 here, 15, all the same, but instead of the right-hander, which you'd take there before, you now stick left and down this straight in towards turn 16 and 17. Previously, I believe, turns 21 and 22. And he's hit the outside wall there, and I think that's done in his wing. Well, maybe not, but now in real life, there is DRS in that new straight from turn 14 all the way down towards turn 16 and 17, so 133.627. Obviously not going to be a competitive lap so far. He's only just turned on his battery once again. This is going to be the lap, I would think, he's going to be able to put on the board. Gasboy 141.692, not going to be one to hold on to for him. Beamer across the line, he's going to be starting one here. Let's go along with Beamer, making his way into turn 1, very heavy over the inside curb. That one is probably going to hurt his time to 10th because that car has gone swirly. through those first couple of corners. That one might need a little bit of catching up to do. Slightly slower coming off of that corner through turn 5. The car seems to be pushing a little bit oversteer. He's gone for the straight line speed, which, you know, now this track is really dependent on straight line speed. Beforehand, it was kind of just, you know, how well could you take the other parts of the track? Now straight line speed does play a huge factor in this lap. And as you can see, Beamer has perhaps set his car up for straight line speed, as it does seem to be slightly struggling. Sorry, Coastlaw 1:30.083 has the fastest time so far, has about a second back to Fireballer. Yep, about 9 3/4. Beamer over the bridge, in towards turn 13. Holds the apex nicely there. A little bit squirrely getting on the throttle, not bad. Lancey goes 1:29.661. 0.4 of a second back to Shiraya. Yeah, see, he's taken way too much curb there, and he's really had to slow the car, because the car's going to get away from him if he tries to push, doing that sort of thing. But Beamer, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say this is not going to be the lap to hold on to for him here. Gazboy's going to be coming in. He still has yet to put down a solid attempt. Osmanian Devil looks as if he's just finished one. Still about 3 and a bit seconds off the pace. Beamer to the line. He does go 6th, 1:33.957. I would definitely think Beamer is capable of more than that. There was a lot of times on that lap where that car got away from him. So we'll have to wait and see what more he can do. And next to the line was the McLaren of Pingolo, who I don't believe that was his competitive lap. I believe this one will be. I'll tell you what, he's held a very nice line through the first couple of corners there. On the throttle goes the McLaren. From the straight from turn 4 in towards turn 5. He's taking the corner a little bit wide there. Does actually quite well, has to be said. Carries a decent amount of speed. To the line he goes. 27.266, purple sector 1. A couple of tenths faster for him there, in towards turn 8. This will be a pretty solid lap so far. Nicely done with the exit of the corner there. In towards turn 10. Once again, takes the wide route through it. Into the Singapore Sling. I believe either that or that's where turn 10 is. I'm not quite sure. Over the bridge, in towards turn 13. Takes a slightly wider apex, but it did look quicker at first glance. DRS enabled down this, I don't want to say it's the back straight. It was at one point. 1:05.475. 3.5 seconds faster than his previous time. Looks like one of the Aston Martins has clobbered the wall, perhaps. No, he's just recharging. Perhaps he's on low fuel, in towards turn 16 and 17. A little bit wide through turn 16, but he's going to hold some good speed. Yeah, the line looks tidy. Through 18 and 19 now to the line. It's going to be within the 131s. 1:30.929. That's good enough for third. Still about 1.3 seconds off of our provisional pole sitter of Lancey. So that is a very respectable lap there, I think, from Pingolo. Not bad at all. One that, for now, has him on the second row. George Mazdaguy starting one now. Actually, he's just finished one, finds himself 1.8 behind. Next up, we're going to be looking at one of the Red Bull drivers. I believe is that of Edwin. No, it's going to be his teammate of Cynical on his out lap. Let's go along with Cynical, shall we? Coming through turns 18 and 19. Chooses not to downshift through the corner that time, and onto the time lap he goes down the pit straight in towards these first couple of corners here, which have definitely had their share of memorable moments over the years. Through turns 2 and 3, looks pretty good, no complaints so far. Little bit of wheel spin there, getting on the throttle out of the third corner, as you'd expect. Through turn 5, does pretty well, maybe has to slow it down a little bit to finally make the right-hander. DRS activated. Tops at 191 miles an hour before he gets in towards turn 7. Purple sector 1 from him so far. Turn 8 he goes. Holds his line really nicely, has to be said. This is looking a great lap so far. A lot of places to go wrong, however. See, that's the only thing. Compared to, say last week at Monza, where, Monza you make one mistake and your whole lap is over. At Singapore you can, I don't want to say get away with a mistake, but there are definitely places to make up that time if you do make a mistake, as Lancey 1:29.607. Now, he's only put about another 0.05 of a second on that lap, but still very impressive from the Dutchman here occupying the Aston Martin tonight. through Sector 3 now, down this back straight. He's got the McLaren ahead of him. I wonder if he's going to get any sort of tow. Not really, bit far away. Through turn 16 into 17. He's taken a lot of the curve on the way into 16. That may have hurt him. 18 and 19 now. Doesn't downshift. Rides the curve nicely on the way out. 129, 674. 7/100ths of a second behind our provisional pole sitter of Lancey, and currently the championship leader. That is a great lap from Cynical. Not many places, I think, he could have really improved. That was just an all-around great lap. Has to be proud of that one. Lancey's teammate of Gasboy on his way around the final set of corners now. I think he's off to at least a better lap than he would have had before. It's going to be in the 130s, 130.807. Good enough for fourth at the moment, 1.2 off of his teammate at the moment. So, both Aston Martins find themselves in the front two rows. It's a very good spot to be. The other Red Bull of Edwin has just made his way to the line, out-qualifies his teammate for the time being by 4/1000ths of a second. That Red Bull team definitely looks to have some pace so far. Both of them within 7/100ths of a second. Lancey separated by 4/1000ths. That is some great stuff to be seen there from those Red Bull drivers. Out of the final corner is Gab. It's 131.530. Not enough to get the top 10 at the moment. Finds himself 1.9 off the pace of our leader so far. Next up on a time lap, I believe we're going to be looking at the Alpha Tauri of Osmanian, who is on low fuel, so we can forget about that one. Pingolo, I want to say... well, it said 9/1000ths of a second slower through Sector 2, so maybe is he on a timer? I'm not sure. Yep, heavy over that first curve. That's going to be done there. Yep, and he's invalidated, and I'm hoping for his sake it's not a this and next. So into the pits comes Pingolo. He wasn't able to put that one to bed there. The Red Bull's coming around. I believe we have the Alpine. No, it's the Williams of Fireball into the line now. 130.330. 7.5 quicker than his personal best, and he moves within the top 5. Within 7.5 of our provisional pole sitter at the moment. Fireballer doing well to get himself within this hunt for the pole position at the moment. 6 minutes and 15 seconds left to go. I believe we do have, it is Shariah, who is currently a 10th faster through that second sector, making his way through 14 and 15. Oh no, 16, 17 rather. Sorry, my phone shut off there. I had my track map open. Through the final two corners now is that of Shariah Coleslaw. To the line he goes. It's looking a great lap. 129.819. Faster by a quarter of a second. Moves himself onto the second row. Finds himself 0.2 of a second behind Lancey at the moment. And Lancey, I don't want to say is necessarily vulnerable. Which I mean, well, how do I put this? He's not necessarily... I mean, he's got a good gap at the moment, but... I think either of these Red Bull drivers could realistically take provisional pole from him. Lancey in the pits at the moment, I'm sure just watching the timing screens. He knows that the Red Bulls at the moment are coming into the pits, both of them. So not going to have to worry about that. I believe we have an Alfa Romeo on their way out. It's going to be that of George Mazda guy. His teammate of Slayer Eyes currently invalidated his timed attempt. He's got what I believe is the Williams of Fireballer ahead of him. I don't believe this is a timer for Fireballer. No, it isn't. I'm sure he's going to be coming in this lap. 5 minutes to go here. And the next driver on a timed lap. I don't want to say it's Shariah. We'll have to find out. Yeah, no, slower by a second and a half. Not him. Is it perhaps then the Haas of Beamer? Who at the moment, I believe that says 0.5 of a second quicker. Through Sector 1. Let's go along with Beamer for the rest of this lap through the Singapore Sling. Going onto the bridge now. Oh, uh-oh, yep. And the Haas has found the barrier actually twice then. He's just gotten a little too happy on the throttle on his way going over the bridge. One of the spots of this track really notorious for not having really any grip is going over that bridge. And, well, he has sure found that that's the case. He's found the barrier on the right side of the track, and thankfully there wasn't anyone going on a lap behind him immediately. But that will be the end of his qualifying session, and he qualifies 4.3 seconds currently off the pace of our leader. Only 4 on out on track at the moment, all of which being on outlaps. The next driver on his way up is that of Osmanian Devil. We have the McLaren of Pingolo who's going to be coming up next. Behind him, the Alfa Romeo of George Mazda guy. And then finally, the Aston Martin of Gasboy. I think we're going to prioritize Gasboy here. A driver who not long ago was on the second row, looking pretty confident next to his teammate in position. Now, finds himself kind of behind the 8 ball here, about that midway point on the back half of the grid. We'll be interested to see what kind of lap he's able to put down. Fireballer on his way out as well. We've got the McLaren of Pingolo on his way. We'll go along with him for the time being, since he's the furthest car out ahead. Red Bull of Edwin on his way out. Remember, only 6/100ths of a second behind Lancey. 4/1000ths of a second in front of his teammate. Lancey now, speak of the devil, is on his way out of the pits. So the final run of timed laps will be had here shortly. Pingolo at the moment 8/100ths faster through the first sector. Not enough to even improve a position here. The timed lap will be improved, but not a position over Gasboy or Reimer. Out of turn 9 he goes. Looks pretty tidy at the moment. Down in towards turn 10. Cuts that corner nicely, but he's not really carried a lot of speed on the way out. In the old games, that was the meta, to take that line, and I'm afraid now, maybe, is that just not the thing to do. Lots of wheel spin on exit there. I think that's definitely hindered him about a 10th. One of the Red Bulls there uses the toe. He's only a quarter of a 10th faster so far. 2 minutes and 15 seconds in what is most likely going to be his final time lap attempt. Yeah, I'm afraid this one might not be one to hold on to here for Pingolo. He has got a lot of work to do in the race if this is going to be his best attempt. Coming through the final couple of corners now, George Mazda in behind. He'll be around shortly. To the line goes Pingolo. It's a 1:30.883, only faster by 5/100ths of a second. Mazda on his way in. I believe next up we have... It's going to be Gasboy. He's got the Williams of Fireballer ahead of him. Now this is good for Gasboy here. He's got the toe of Fireballer through a majority of this lap so far. Gasboy might be on for a good position here. 1:30.028, faster by over 7.5 of a second. Moves to the 5th spot within 4:20. Nice of his teammate of Lancey, who at the moment finds himself on a outlap, currently using as much time as he can. Next up, I believe it is the other Alfa Romeo of Slayer Eyes, who's going to be coming around the final corner now. We've got a Red Bull on his way. Is it that of Edwin? No, it's Cynical, who's gearing up for his final attempt here. We do have an Alpha Tauri. It's Osmanian Devil on his way around. Edwin, currently the driver we're on with here. 1:05 left here as Edwin making his way out of turn 9, down the straight in towards turn 10. I believe is that the Alpine of Reimer, who's going to be coming around for a time lap attempt here shortly. He's going to be what looks to be the final driver on a timed lap, aside from perhaps Shariah and Gab. I think Gab's going to have... It's going to be really close for Gab. I think Shariah ought to make it, but Edwin at the moment, purple sector 2, makes his way down the back straight now. When he gets to the braking zone, he tops as 181 miles an hour. Nicely done through 16, exit of 17. Oh, he's hit the wall, but for the moment he's continuing around the final 2 corners now. I don't think Edwin's improved. Yes, he has! 1:29.167. Well, all due apologies to Edwin. He has blown Lancey's time out of the water for the time being. Wow. Goodness me, that lap, has to be said, has seemingly come out of nowhere. Brilliant stuff. For the Red Bull of Edwin, Pingolo's done all he can. He's going to be on his way into the pits. Gasboy as well. We've got one of the Alfa Romeos. It's that of Slayer Eyes coming through the final paces now. Lancey up next. To the line is Slayer Eyes, only manages P8. Lancey to the line. Does he have enough? No. He only improves by 1/10.5. 1:29.469. 0.3 of a second off of pole, but here's Cynical, and he will go second. 1:29.256 improves by 0.4 of a second. It's a Red Bull 1-2 for the time being. Does Osmanian have anything at the line? He does not improve. Well, he does improve in the time. 1.8 seconds faster, but only good enough for P12. Not going to be enough to improve position there. Next up is Reimer, and then Gab behind him. The final 2 timed laps, I want to say, but incredible from GSR Edwin, who on provisional pole, Lancey's done all he could. He won't be improving. Reimer to the line, 1:30.255, puts himself P7. Not enough really to improve many positions there. Gab through the final paces of the lap now. He will go P10. Next up is Shariah. To the line goes the Ferrari. He can only manage 4th. Next up is Fireballer. He has invalidated. And Edwin is not on a timed lap here, so it is a Red Bull front row lockout here. Edwin, 129.167, beats his teammate by 9/100ths of a second in the qualifying session that was largely dominated by the Dutchman of Lancey. That, well, we were saying how Lancey wasn't necessarily safe, but wasn't really vulnerable either. I tell you what, I thought that lap was over from Edwin when he hit the wall coming out of turn 17. As it turns out, it's not hurt the car any. And Edwin puts together a massive lap, and Cynical in his own right has done just that as well. Front row lockout for the Red Bulls here. So the starting grid then for the Singapore Grand Prix here in the Monkey Mafia Esports League. Edwin and Cynical to front row lockout for the Red Bull team. Lancey third, although 0.3 of a second off, will be looking to get that pole spot. That first position coming into the first corner. Shariah fourth, Gazboy fifth, solid showing from the Aston Martins. Sixth Fireballer, seventh Reimer, eighth Slayerized. Fifth row lockout then for the McLarens, 9 and 10. George Mazdaguy 11, 12 is Osmanian. Unfortunately, Beamer did DNF quite early on in the session. Will qualify P13. So, Lancey has pace, Edwin has pace, Cynical has pace. In fact, anybody within that second of the leader, anyone in the top 7 really, I think, might have a fair shot of winning this Grand Prix today. Let's find out. So for the moment, what looks to be a rather peaceful night here in Singapore may just find some chaos. In not that much time at all. I tell you what, in real life F1, this track is listed as having a 100% chance of a safety car. Do we find that tonight? Granted, we've only got 13 drivers on the grid. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one for sure. In fact, we did have a red flag last week in, what was a race that was actually really fun until we got to some of those incident moments. Should really consider racing in this series. I think I'd have quite a lot of fun, but I just have absolutely no practice on this game whatsoever. So once again, Lancey leads our points. Behind him is Shariah, Coleslaw, Beamer, P4, Pingolo 5th, Gab 6th, Cynical 7th. His teammate, I don't believe, finished last time out. In fact, if we look at the results page, Lightwork didn't finish, Osmanian Devil didn't finish, Fallen Demon didn't finish, Slayer Eyes didn't finish, Mazdaguy didn't finish, Gonzalez didn't finish, and Valhalla Wolf all did not finish the race last time out. 7 DNFs in Monza. We're down to, that was a grid with 17. Tonight's a grid with 13. Do we find carnage tonight? According to my phone, I haven't been pinged for any sort of weather or anything. Usually someone will send me a Discord ping if that's the case. That is not the case so far tonight, so I'm assuming perhaps is it dry. All the way through now, you know, sometimes it's tricky, isn't it? Because sometimes the rain does throw such an element of the race that sometimes you need, but it has to be said, most of the time the racing is just simply closer when it's a dry race. That's something that we don't typically say as F1 fans. We typically look forward to the rain, bringing some new faces forward, but you know, now with these cars so influenced by DRS and so closely held together when you're in those DRS trains, you do actually hope for those dry races. So, front row lockout then for the Red Bull team. Let's look at the tires. Slayer Eyes starting on the softs. That is a really bold strategy, that. Only 5 decide to start on the mediums, the rest on the hards. In fact, everyone in the top 6, minus that of Cynical, has chosen the hard tires. Those medium tires will be great at the start of this Grand Prix, but they will wear away quite quickly, as well as those softs are only going to be good for about, in fact, they're only going to be really drivable for maybe 10. That's a really bold strategy to have there. For Slayer Eyes, we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out for him there. That is, I'm not going to say anything because he's a quicker driver than I am. That part is absolutely for sure. That looks such a questionable decision for me. Just not quite sure. Cynical and Edwin, the two Red Bulls leading their way through Sector 2 now on the formation lap. Oh, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, we're back on regular team liveries instead of multiplayer cars, and formation lap is back on. So, yeah, great stuff. There's your strategy there. 17 to 23 looks from hard to mediums. Looks like, yeah, so 17 to 23 is what we're looking at there. That did not really give me any info whatsoever. You know, there was a time I really, all I did was, you know, I made sure to go in beforehand and, you know, look at tire strategies, look at the tire ages. Has to be said, it's a little more interesting when there's an element of mystery behind it. Has to be said. So, yeah, I don't really do that anymore. But, so, this is going to be my question here. Who's going to have the better grid spot? Because if you're on the inside of the grid here, I would assume you're going to be at an advantage. In fact, I think Cynical on those medium tires is going to be lining up on the inside of the grid. That is going to be a huge advantage into these first couple of corners here. I think, really, if you get a good start and you're ahead of your counterpart there on the front row, by the time you get into that third corner, and then by the time you get out of the fourth and into the fifth, that's when you get onto the outside. Yeah, I tell you what, I like that inside line here. I think Cynical may just get a better start here than his teammate. We'll have to wait and see. Lights are coming on now in Singapore. Both the Red Bulls on the front row, Edwin and Cynical. And it is underway here in Singapore. Cynical, I tell you what, has angled his car really across the side, but he's not had a great start, and Edwin will pull away what looks to be quite easily as behind. Lancey under pressure from Shariah, and Shariah has chosen to not attack. His teammate, a Gasboy, has really fallen out of line there, drops a couple of spots. Reimer down to his inside. Looks like Fireballer and Pingolo are going to be side by side here in towards the fifth corner. Oh, contact perhaps. I couldn't quite see with that camera, but it looks like for now everybody's gotten away okay. Slayer Eyes just fallen back already at the start there. Pingolo under heavy pressure from Reimer, or from Fireballer rather. Fireballer's going to try it around the outside. No gots there, but as Pingolo drifts up the track as where the line would take him, he's actually going to do a great job trying to cover that inside line. So Fireballer doesn't get any sort of switchback maneuver here, exiting turn 9, down the straight in towards turn 10. It has to be said, I think everybody's stayed the same here as far as positioning is concerned. Everybody from, well, you've either gained 2 spots or, you know, lost 2 spots here. No real significant moving about on the grid. As we're about halfway through our first lap so far, there's Fireballer looking for the outside on Pingolo. No DRS now, but the straight line speed advantages of some of these cars might be worth looking out for here. In toward the 14th corner. Bit of wheel spin getting on acceleration there from the Aston Martin of Gasboy. Pingolo, is he looking down to the inside for a move? Oh, I tell you what, he nearly went into the back of the Aston Martin there, and Fireballer in the Williams nearly hits Pingolo as well. Edwin has the fastest lap so far, has 4/10 of a second, and closing. I tell you what, his teammate really closing the gap here. I tell you what, I think those medium tires, again, I think they're just going to be better off the start here. Certainly better as far as cornering ability, but how long do those medium tires stay relevant in this fight for the lead at the moment? Again, I highly doubt these two drivers atop the grid are going to battle each other considering their teammates, but at the moment, that gap is, you know, kind of extending back to Lancey here. Not enough to really be worth pointing out. In fact, it's staying quite stagnant around 6.5 tenths. I will say Shariah has lost 2.5 seconds back to Lancey here after a really early challenge from the Ferrari. It looked as if he was perhaps going to make that position, and that was just simply not the case, I'm afraid. 2 Red Bulls within half a second of each other here. Yellow flag at the back. It's that of Beamer, who's found the wall on the inside. Actually, rather, the inside coming off of turn 8. He is down bits of a front wing here, not ideal whatsoever. It looks like Pingolo and Gasboy. I tell you what, Pingolo's actually just gone around the outside of Gasboy, and so is Fireballer. At turn 13, a very difficult corner to make an overtake. He's actually just lost 2 positions in the span of 2 corners there. I wonder, as he hit a wall or something is hindering performance. Osmanian Devils retired, and the virtual safety car on track. I think he's overshot turn 14, and the grid now neutralized. Well, the car has disappeared, but he was probably outside the corner. You can see the Brakes locking up then. Yeah, not ideal for him whatsoever. Two cars on their way into the pits. It's that of Gasboy and Slayerized. I'm assuming perhaps wing changes. Definitely one for the Alfa Romeo. The Aston Martin, well, he's fit the mediums. Not sure why he's decided to stop. Still virtual safety car on track. Looks like we might get green here very shortly. I tell you what, this battle between Pingolo and Fireballer might be very close here once they get back to green, because these cars pretty much overlapping each other this whole time. As far as the battle for the lead is concerned, it's a half a second between the two Red Bulls. Lancey back a second, 1.2, as I hope we're about to get back to green here. We're going to go along with this battle for the lead here temporarily. Surprised Lancey didn't get a better start. Although it has to be said, it was great defense from Cynical off the line, who was kind of really pointed across at his teammate off the line. And I think maybe was that the goal, to just hold up Lancey, because Lancey was under pressure from Shiraya at the start. And I'm wondering if that defense from Cynical then is really just what was able to make it happen. Because Lancey, who, as for how dominant he was for 18 out of the 20 minutes of the qualifying 16 out of the 18 minutes of the qualifying session. Oh, that's a big slide! Wow, what a catch. Goodness me, he's really held on to that one. But for how dominant he was for 16 out of the 18 minutes of the qualifying session, kind of surprised to see how much he is, well, there's no other word for it, how much he's struggling here. He's not really catching up to the two ahead. Looks like he might be struggling with the car slightly, although I tell you what, these two Red Bulls having DRS ahead. He's going to have DRS as well. I tell you what, I think Edwin might be in a bit of a hole here come a couple of laps, because, you know, just considering how his teammate and Lancey both have DRS. Yeah, that one might be a tough one. I wouldn't be surprised if we see perhaps a battle for the lead here very shortly. Meanwhile, Reimer has been pressuring Shiraya here for a good part of a lap and a half. Shiraya, despite being able to, you know, pressure Lancey off the start, hasn't really pressured the top three whatsoever. He's behind 3.7 seconds. Is there any damage on the Ferrari I can see? Nope, none at all. So perhaps is it just Shiraya Koslov maybe not being so comfortable with the car? It's definitely a possibility. As Reimer goes deep into the corner. Once again, he's on the medium tires. He will have the advantage, but for how long is going to be the question. I don't think it could be much longer, really. Because these hard tires, this is a very high degradation track. Oh, that's a big slide from Shiraya. Somehow he's been able to hold on. And now coming out of turn 15 down the back straight, in a section of the track in real life which has DRS. It's none here. Tell you what, the door might be open for Reimer here quite shortly, because Shiraya looks to be struggling. Cynical's gone fastest, 133, and then Lancey goes fastest, 133, 932. Suddenly it's 0.2 of a second between the two Red Bull drivers, and Lancey's been able to catch up. As one Red Bull is being held up by the other here, that allows Lancey, the Dutchman, and the Aston Martin to have DRS, and that enables him to get closer to this fight for the podium spots. I tell you what, the prediction's coming true at the moment. We weren't going to be able to see the two Red Bulls really battle each other here. I didn't quite think that was going to happen, and it's not so far. Gasboy 133, 466. Currently the fastest on track. Reimer down to the inside of Lancey on their way into the sixth corner. Definite contact being made, and Reimer falls out of position then. Oh, sorry, that was the seventh corner of the track, but either way. Yeah, that's a tricky one there, because naturally you're going side by side into a 90-degree corner. The driver on the outside has to stay within track limits, because if he overtakes you, the game will make him fall behind and give you the spot back. And naturally, if you do attempt to go side by side, the goal is to leave room for both cars. Reimer, I think, tried to probably go wider than what was allowed. It didn't really look as if... Oh, George Mazda guy's gone off. Safety car on track. This is on the way in. He has hit the bridge, and he has dove going in towards the bridge, coming in, actually off the bridge, in towards turn 13. There's debris everywhere. Safety car on track. He's hit the wall. I would assume he's done it with oversteer somewhere along these lines. And then that car was about there, off where you see that Singapore GP advertisement in the back of your screen. That's where the car came to rest. And George Mazda guy cuts the point scoring for the Alfa Romeos in half. Well, two cars decide to pit. It's that of Cynical, that of Lancey as well. It's a bold stop from Lancey. being that he's on the hard tires, he's going to the mediums here. He's completed the mandatory stop, the mandatory tire change. He could go, perhaps medium. It doesn't look like he's really happy with the hard tires at the moment, so maybe that's what's going to be on his mind. The Red Bull of Cynical has gone from the hards to the mediums here. Edwin takes the lead. Oh, wait, actually, no. Has Cynical gone medium? He has, hasn't he? Because Edwin started on the hards. Cynical started on the mediums. Cynical has gone a medium strategy here so far. I believe. I'm 90% sure that that's the case, and that's what's happened. Bold strategy from Cynical. I think he'll have enough pace to get around Fireballer and perhaps Gab. That is a really interesting strategy here, and what's even more interesting, although I think it's more or less because they were already past the pit lane, I think. Unless they just flat out decided to not come in. Reimer and Pingolo stay out. Edwin and Shiraya, those two being how they started on the hards, I assumed they were going to stay out, and they have. Slayerized and Beamer on their way in. Slayerized coming out on medium. Beamer, I'm going to... He's putting on softs. That is a bold decision there. So soft tires for Beamer. But more importantly, Cynical and Lancey pit from the podium. Fall back to P7 and P8. They are amongst the danger zone now. I'm going to step aside as the safety car sorts itself out. So the safety car is going to be in this time by. We're just about, just a little under a third of our way through this Singapore Grand Prix here. In fact, I'd say we're about a quarter of the way through. In a couple of laps' time, we'll be a third of the way through. It took 8 laps here. I think we might be starting to see the tire strategy open up some new routes for the top spot here. Once again, Edwin and Shiraya on the hards. They'll be going between 17 and 23 laps is what the game has told me. Reimer Pingolo started on the mediums. They have stayed out onto the stop. In fact, everybody down to Gab in P6 has done just that. We're about to get back onto green here shortly. Lancey and Cynical have pit. Lancey from the hards, Cynical to the mediums. Both of them on the medium tires. Green flag back in the air here. Shiraya Coleslaw really under pressure from Reimer. Down to the inside will be the Alpine into the first corner. And he's just a little bit too far back to make that one happen. Cynical gets past Gab in the McLaren. A little bit further back, Lancey getting around Gab. Something has gone wrong with that McLaren because he has dropped 2 spots there since the start. And in not really having any traction to get onto the throttle, he's backed up the Aston Martin of Gaz boy. I think as Gaz ran into the back of Gab here, and he has fallen a couple spots now. Reimer just a couple of tenths back to Shiraya. As Gab, Gab has gone off, and he has gone straight through turn 7 there into the runoff area. Thankfully, he's not hit anything, but that is a huge loss there for the McLaren. So Edwin has a 1.5-second lead over Shiraya Coleslaw. Coleslaw leads Reimer by 0.5 of a second. Reimer leads Pingolo by 0.7, and Pingolo leads Fireballer by 0.5. That is your top 5. But the battle here, Lancey, Cynical, Fireballer. Remember, Lancey and Cynical were atop the grid for a little bit there. Top 2 out of the 3 podium sitters. Down to the inside is Cynical. That is a beautiful switchback maneuver, has to be said. Brilliant stuff. Fireballer gets in the way of Lancey as in trying to defend the spot that he's probably going to lose anyways, to be honest with you. Yeah, I tell you what, Fireballer's really been done in there, has to be said. No sort of... I think maybe has he gone deep into turn 14 because it didn't really look like there was much he could have done. He's lost 2 spots there in absolutely no time. Beautiful overtake from Cynical, and Lancey's done just as good to put the Williams to bed as quickly as he could, a third of the way through the Grand Prix now. And once again, these two who one time ago sat atop the 2 out of the 3 podium sitters find themselves 5th and 6th on what seems to be an alternate strategy. Definitely is the case for Cynical, who's gone medium. Remember, you need to fit at least 1 additional compound to the one you start on in order to be a legal race here. Down to the inside is Pingolo, side by side here into the 7th corner. Around the outside is Cynical, and that's the same thing we saw between Shiraya Coleslaw and Reimer earlier on. Contact being made. Cynical goes round, piles in behind his Lancey. Also the Williams of Fireballer. Has there been a DNF? No, there hasn't. But there's debris everywhere. Front wings litter the circuits. Cynical and Pingolo, what was great racing, has turned into absolute disaster here as Pingolo has overshot the corner. Cynical doing another spin, trying to get onto the throttle there. Oh, that is so unfortunate. Cynical at the outside of the corner there. Pingolo did everything he could. I think has just overshot it and has gone careening into the side of the Red Bull. Although, to be honest, the Red Bull doesn't seem to have that much damage at the moment. Nothing visible in the front wing, at least. I know there is bits of front wing somewhere. I want to say, yeah, the Williams of Fireballer. He is missing the front wing entirely. Cynical, 5-second penalty for corner cutting. Gazboy, was he in it as well? I do know Lancey really got shuffled behind in that incident there. He kind of got held up as the cars were piling into each other ahead of him. He had to take evasive maneuvers. So, I mean, after all said and done, he gets promoted back to the 4th spot, but he finds himself 1.2 behind Reimer. However, I will say, as Reimer battles Shariah Coleslaw here, Lance is going to get caught back up, and he's once again going to challenge for the podium positions. Reimer down to the inside. A couple of laps ago, we saw these drivers battle it out into this corner before, and I think maybe is there contact again between these two. Once again, it has to be said, not really anything wrong. Both drivers just trying to get their elbows out and get the spot. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say Reimer's forcing him off track, at least, well, maybe that time I think Shariah could have made the case, as they were both side by side. Cynical has, yeah, he's retired in the pits, thankfully for him, not being done on track. All the while, Edwin, 4-second lead at this moment in time. Lancey now really pressuring Shariah. He's going to look for the outside here through the 13th corner, and now as they get into the DRS section here, both drivers having DRS, Lancey looking like he's got a straight line speed advantage. I think he's going to get around Shariah around the outside here. Contact being made very close indeed. Thankfully, all ends well there. There was definitely contact. Thankfully, it wasn't anything more than a little tap then. And it looks as if this battle, I mean, Shariah on 10-lap Old Hard, it's going to be hard to come back from that. Great battle between both of them. Oh, good catch there from Shariah. He'll lose time, but thankfully he's held onto the car. For some reason, the robot of Cynical has found its way back onto the track and then retires by one of the marshal posts. But I've seen retiring in the pits cause safety cars before, so I really have no idea. It looks like we're all going to stay fine for now. 0.5 of a second the gap between Reimer and Lancey. Reimer did well to battle with Shariah. Whether there's a call for a penalty with Shariah or not, we'll have to wait and see. Reimer being on 5-lap older tires than Lancey, that one was going to be easy all day for Lancey, it has to be said, as the Dutchman now moves himself once again up to the 2nd spot. Mind you, I think he's very lucky to have not picked up damage with that incident between Cynical, Pingolo, and Gazboy. Well, Gazboy was at the tail end of that. He didn't really pick up any damage. The McLarens will invert positions here, as Gab will get ahead of Pingolo. Started with 13, we're down to 10. It was an early DNF from Osmanian Devil. George Mazda guy didn't fare very much better in Cynical, unfortunately, after sustaining the damage earlier on, just a couple of moments ago. Really, he wasn't, I don't think, going to find a way back into the contention, which is such a shame, because, once again, we had Red Bull start 1-2, and it's ended like this. Cynical down 9 positions. Remember, he started 2nd to Edwin starting on pole. Cynical, I think, was always going to have it difficult considering he was on the off strategy. He went medium off the start, which, well, it unfortunately doesn't quite matter now. Lancey's gone fastest, 1:33.454. Shariah looks to be back within a second of Reimer here. Doesn't have DRS at the moment, but he will momentarily once they go out of turn 5. Assuming he's able to keep it close. Lancey now. Oh, I tell you what, I think Edwin may have made a mistake because suddenly he's within 0.5 of a second. And look at this. Rain is falling here in Singapore. Lancey down to the inside. And as you can see, raindrops starting to collect on the chassis of the Aston Martin. We're starting to see it streaming. It'll be at least a lap or two before the track, I would really say, is declared wet. And you'll notice that by when the virtual FIA turn off DRS. We're not at that point yet. The rain has only just started to fall, but the intermediates soon to come is what I would expect. And suddenly, what looked to be a race, you know, that was going to be, I don't want to say, you really had a 33% chance to guess a winner. It was one of the Red Bull drivers, or Lancey, that was really ahead of the rest. And now, a huge wrench has been thrown into the plans of any driver on the grid. And who is going to be able to adapt better? You can see the rain starting to collect now. I would think we're going to see pitting for intermediates this time by. The rain is definitely collecting faster than I figured it would. Race control has not turned off DRS yet, but Lancey, is he going to come in this time by? My guess would be yes. Yes, he will come into the pits. Behind him, Edwin. Behind him, Reimer. Behind him, Shariah. It's really going to be a battle of who makes a good pit stop here. And does anybody slide into the pit lane? DRS now finally disabled. It looks like, yeah, we've got an incident here. It looks like as Beamer spun the car through turn 13. Intermediates going on for Lancey. Reimer on his way in now. Edwin now on his way in. Lancey is going to get out ahead. Slayerized finds its way in, but who's going to be able to get their tires up to temperature? Who's going to be able to keep it clean as we come out of the pit lane here? The track, really, I would say, still on the brink of being okay. Yeah, you can see it does look a bit greasy now. I think this has definitely been the right call to come in for the intermediates this time. Shariah on his way out. What an interesting development we've had so far. We're only about halfway through this Grand Prix. More to come, perhaps. Do we find the rain gets heavier and we go to full wets? Do we find it dries out in about 10 laps time and we go back to the softs? That'll really make it interesting. For now, it's a 6-second gap between Lancey and Edwin atop the table. And the closest battle on track is that of Shariah, as 1.6 behind Reimer. See, Shariah really spinning the tires there, still getting used to the intermediates. I'm just wondering how long it's going to take these tires to get up to temperature. How long are they going to struggle at all? And for how long will they? At the moment, everybody looks like they're going to be holding on. Reimer definitely looks pretty stable so far. I'd say Edwin nearly hit the wall on the outside there of the bridge. 14 laps completed of the 31-lap race distance. About halfway through. I think we're two laps within halfway. Closest battle on track, 1.4 seconds from Shariah to Reimer. And Reimer's got just about 2 to Edwin. And Edwin 6.5 behind Lancey. Lancey could be looking to go back-to-back here. You definitely see the rain falling. We got that greasy look to the surface now. It's raining. Not hard enough, I would say, to where it'll collect enough for the full wets. Unless that comes in. I'm not sure at the moment. It looks fine. It looks like it's just going to be intermediates the rest of the way. A second now back to Reimer. Is that of Shariah? Who gets better acceleration out of the fifth corner? Whoever gets it is going to have an advantage. It looks as if, yeah, well, they've stayed even Stevens. Is what they've done there. Millimetrically even coming off that fifth corner. In fact, Shariah was only able to gain about 2/1000ths of a second of that whole straight. And now, going into the 8th corner and then the 7th and 8th corner, has lost and then regained position here. I think Shariah is very much enjoying his car in the corners right now. I think Reimer has him on the straight line. We'll check the speed trap when we get down the back straight here. A second the gap. Remember, no DRS because of the wet conditions. 0.6 of a second now. Reimer looks like he's struggling. Looks about dead even on pace. Reimer topped out about 163 into the braking zone. Oh, look at the wheel spin. 4th here and wheel spin there for Shariah. 176 before the braking zone. So that'll be our cue to look out for. Oh, I tell you what, he almost hit the outside wall then. The final 2 corners here onto the... Yeah, well, we're on the 16th lap of the Grand Prix. 0.4 of a second here, and it looks... Sorry, 0.3 of a second. It looks to be closing, although Shariah has heavily overshot the first corner. That will buy Reimer some time. In towards turn 5 here. Who gets the better exit? Yet again, I think Reimer has him on straight line, although Shariah with the ERS button now. He's definitely closing in, although he's not going to be close enough to get any sort of overtake maneuver in towards the 8th corner. Oh, sorry, that's the 7th corner at this point. Now into the 8th corner. Shirai's gone wide. Heavy wheel spin there through 3rd gear. Somehow he doesn't lose the back end of the car. Virtual safety car out on track. Just wondering why that's come out. Is there any... Yep, okay, well that will be the cause of it there. Fireballer has... sorry, no, it's Beamer in the Haas. He has shed his front wing going down the pit straight. The front wing of the Haas is gone. It is currently collected right up against the inside wall. So the virtual safety car on... oh, and he's hit the wall then. Virtual safety car on track to get that cleaned. And I tell you what, the rain's still falling. I tell you what, I'd say it's fallen quite heavily now. Definitely looks like it's fallen heavier than it was before. And I tell you what, I'm starting to see some standing water. We may be getting onto the full wets here shortly. So it was 167 last time down that straight. It was 174 for Shirai on the straight line. So I'm actually thinking, yeah, maybe Shirai just does simply have a plain advantage here. I'll tell you what, the rain coming down now, you can see. I thought I saw water start to collect as they got over the bridge. When you start to see it collect on the racing line, that's when you know the wets are coming out. But for now, we do not see that. Right now, it's still just a greasy surface. It's still draining enough to where intermediates are the preferred tire. Although it has to be said, Shirai is starting to really fall behind Reimer now. That gap, which was in 0.3 of a second not long ago, is now outside of a second on their way into turn 7. It'll be interesting to see. For now, Lancey still resides 6.8 seconds over Edwin. Remember, Lancey on his way looking for 2 in a row. Won last time out, the inaugural race in Monza, which I tell you what, he had to fight for it towards the end, but he ended up with the win. And Beamer has retired, that being in the pits. Through turn 13, Shirai falling behind ever so slightly. In fact, I'd say he's losing about 1/10 of a second right now. And I think it might just simply be on acceleration. Oh boy, that frame rate is terrible at the moment. Goodness me. Holy mackerel, that was poor. I think it really is just acceleration, which is catching Shirai Coleslaw out here, because in the straight line, he's got a legitimate statistic mile-an-hour, advantage from Reimer's 167 to Shirai's 174. That's what we clocked a couple of laps ago going down the back straight. As Gazboy, 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, becomes one of 2 now with time penalties. Gazboy, has he lost the car on the pit straight? Yes, he has. He's lost the car coming out of the final corner. Thankfully, he's not hit anything. But that one is going to be slightly unfortunate now, as he finds himself 11 seconds and counting behind the Alfa Romeo of Slayer Eyes, which occupies the 5th spot currently. Still raining here in Singapore. Still not... I tell you what, I thought we were going to see the full wet soon. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Fireball at 3 seconds, multiple warnings. P9 at the moment. Into turn 10 they go. Shirai is still... Oh, that was a big slide then. He's caught it very nicely. But he's almost lost the car. I'm just worried about this bridge section here, because we've seen drivers... We've seen that part of the track claim drivers already in this race in the dry. Never mind in the wet. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we are going to see full wets. My thing is, like, I kind of wish the game got to the point where it's like, okay, it's been, this just regular rain. It's not been heavy rain, but it's rained for long enough to where the wet tires will be necessary. As Edwin is on his way in, and he has retired And so has Gazboy, who has crashed going into the 14th corner in the safety car on track. Why has Edwin retired from the session? He was doing so well. He was second place. And that, unfortunately, is the location of the crash for the Aston Martin. He has gone straight through the corner. And that will be the end of the day for the Aston Martin driver. Very unfortunate set of circumstances here, but we are under safety car. Will that tighten up the grid? Again, why has Edwin retired? Did he make such a mistake that he was going to be falling behind? I actually have no idea. Pingolo 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Cynical is, as we look in the Discord, not happy with Pingolo over the move that took Cynical out of contention. Both Red Bulls do not finish the Grand Prix here tonight. In a odd turn of events, to say the least. Fireballer, Pingolo on his way in. It looks like Pingolo has stopped for new tires. If it's full wets or intermediates, we'll see. They are intermediates once more. So it doesn't look as if we're anticipating full wets. Interesting. Well, I'm going to step aside until the safety car sorts itself out. 7 drivers left on the grid, but we still got a lot of time, and we'll hang on just a minute. I was going to pause, but it looks as if Pingolo's picked up a drive-through for speeding into the safety car. Lancey's on his way in now. What does he decide to fit here? Will it be the full wets? Will it be the intermediate? I'm assuming intermediates. I'm assuming if you are going to stop, this is going to be the time. Yep, new intermediates going on for Lancey. And he'll be on his way out, and Reimer and Shiraya are doing, I would assume, the same. Slayerized most likely as well. Yep, Slayerized also coming in. So, it looks like it's going to be a little while before we get the grid reshaped here. I am going to step aside. And hopefully we're going to find ourselves a good conclusion to this Grand Prix. So I was going to stay out from under the safety car here and let it come in. We do have a couple of developments here. As it turns out for Edwin, he had lost game audio, was no longer able to hear the car, the upshifts, or anything like that. As we look as if we have Dace coming in here. It looks like Beamer. The problem with him is that the wheel has been giving him force feedback even when he stopped. But the big story we're seeing here, we're seeing standing water collecting on the track here. I don't know if you can kind of see it, the shiny puddles we can see here forming on the tarmac. I think we may be seeing full wets here in a matter of time. The rain absolutely coming down. Was that thunder I just heard? Certainly not outside. I think I may have just heard thunder in the game. I can't say I've ever heard thunder in the game before. Anyways, puddles starting to form. Full wets may be the option here. Next time by will be 10 laps to go. We only have 7 drivers remaining. Do any of them decide to risk for the full wets? None of the drivers in the back have decided to come in. I think we might be looking at another lap or two behind the safety car here. But definitely standing water out there now, as you can see. Puddles forming. The rain coming down here. As if the conditions weren't treacherous enough with the full wet. You know, with these, what I would say, full wet conditions and still being on the intermediate tires, that is going to be an absolute mess. As you can see, Lancey, I think, might be trying to test grip here. Tough to tell. Still the 3 of Pingolo, Gavin, Fireballer at the tail end of the grid. I think Lancey's got a big decision to make here because this track is definitely starting to fall out of... Oh my goodness! Okay, that was really close. This track is definitely starting to fall out of operating range for the intermediates. Lancey, however, it's going to be up to him because whatever he does, the rest of the grid is either going to copy him or they're going to do the opposite. Sounds simple enough, I understand, but if Lancey stays out, the rest of the grid may come in. If Lancey comes in, I think everyone's going to come in. What does he do this time by? Safety car is not in. Does he come in? The answer, I think he's looking at it. No, he's going to stay out. Reimer also stays out. Everybody staying out. Minus that of Pingolo. And yeah, that's going to be it. Pingolo's going to be the... Well, he has a drive-through penalty to serve. I believe he's going to have to serve that when he's not under the safety car. As you can see, tires coming out. Those look like full wets to me. Yes, they are. Full wet tires for Pingolo. He has a drive-through penalty, but he is the first one to take the bite. Oh, this is such an interesting decision here. I think Lancey's played it really bold staying out. For a driver that, at times, did not look comfortable with the car, has to be said. Counting down the laps here to the end of the Grand Prix. Let's just ride along with Pingolo here. I tell you what, he doesn't seem to be doing much better on the wets than he did the intermediates. Yet struggling to get up to gear, but I tell you what, at least he's able to hold the car at full throttle on the full wets. But I guess spray doesn't exist anymore. Jeez. I haven't seen spray once. I mean, a little bit, but not really. Hardly any. Uh-oh. Well, Fireballer's gone around. Well, I didn't notice that at first. Fireballer spun the car coming out of turn 9. This is behind the safety car. Thankfully, it doesn't look as if he's hit anything enough to where he would need to come in. We're going to have 9 laps of racing left this time by. Safety car is in this lap. Oh boy, does Lancey change his mind? Does he stay out and risk it? Does anyone else behind decide to come in for the full wets? I tell you what, Fireballer's been able to, Pingolo's been able to get back to the grid relatively quick enough. I think that may be a good sign for the full wets right now. Lancey's got a big decision to make, and I think that's what he's doing. He's slowing up the grid. He's trying to give himself time to think. Because right now, I tell you what, if I was in his shoes, I would definitely be questioning and definitely be thinking about coming in. 9 laps to go this time by. Lancey stays out. Shariah comes in, as well as Gab and Pingolo. Well, Pingolo has the drive-through penalty to serve, but Shariah and Gab have decided to come in for what I presume to be the full wets. For the meantime, it is a battle between Lancey and Reimer for the lead of the Grand Prix. It's a second, but it has to be said, these cars are driving on icicles at the moment. These intermediate tires, I think, are being overwhelmed by the amount of standing water on the surface. There is a lot of it. Look, he's still getting wheel spin up to 5th gear. 9 laps of racing to go. This is a big risk to stay out. Unless do they know that the rain's going to get lighter and the track's going to dry out just a little bit to where the intermediates will once again be the meta tire. I have no idea. Let's go along with Shariah Coleslaw here. He's on the full wets. Doesn't look like he's faring much better, although I tell you what, he's not really gaining that much time, is he? He's really not. Has to be said. He's not really coming back that fast. So a second separate the top two. It'll be 8 laps to go this time by. The rain still falling. Oh, that's a lot of wheel spin there. It looks as if Reimer, you can see by that indicator in the bottom right-hand corner of the telemetry, the little screwdriver and the wrench, I think Reimer's planning to come in this lap. Lancey, I think, perhaps as well. Oh, that's a big lockup then from Lancey. We've got a yellow flag in the back. It looks... Oh, goodness gracious! Shariah's gone off. Well, he's hit the wall. Virtual safety car on track. Shariah's picked up 5 seconds for a severe collision with Gab. Neither Lancey or Reimer come in. Slayerized. Fireballer will. Pingolo already on those full wets. I'm just wondering what has happened between Shariah and Gab. Shariah was perpendicular on the circuit. on the bridge, and perhaps as Gab ran into him. That is a very possible scenario. The Fireballer and Slayer Eyes take the bite, and they will be going to the full wets. Lancey and Reimer, I think, if they wanted to come in for the full wets, they have missed their opportunity. I think now it's too far gone to be coming in now. Of course, they have the virtual safety car, but it's not going to be that way in elapsed time. Ooh. I don't know. I think Lancey is at the point where he's comfortable enough to drive in these conditions, but will he be able to hold on? That's going to be my question. Will he be able to hold on to the car for this much time? Green flag back in the air. That's a big wheel slide. Somehow he's held on. Only just. Fireballer. Has he gotten around Slayer Eyes? Yes, he is. Around the outside. On their way into turn 7. Great overtake from the Williams. Although he's gone off track, he may need to give it back. No, it doesn't look like he will. Okay. Over the bridge they go. In towards turn 13. Still the battle between these two here, both on the full wets. Shiraya's 5-second penalty for crossing the pit exit white line. That's a penalty I can't say I've ever seen in this game before. My question is the Williams a Fireballer? Now, he's not necessarily gaining any time on the top two. Maybe thousandths of a second at the most. 7 laps to go this time by. What do the top two decide to do? Do they play it safe or do they decide to come in? Still, no full wets for the top two. I believe they are the only drivers left on the grid. Yes, they are. Fireballer now starting to gain some time. Only just. Of course, he's got 3 seconds of penalties. In fact, everybody barring that of Lancey, Reimer, and Gab have. Oh, look at the wheel spin there. How are they able to hold on to the car in these conditions? Absolute skill. That's a big slide from Reimer. Wow, what a save that was. Full-on Singapore drift. Goodness me, he's done that. Well, I tell you what, the top two drivers here, regardless of the outcome that they face, whether they hold on to the positions as is, whether there's a change for the lead, or whether either of them crash. Holy mackerel. Did you see that? I don't think we were able to get a good camera angle of that, but Reimer just went about, he just went sideways in about 3 different positions there. Sideways to the left, to the right, and then to the left again, he was able to hold on. But either way, the testicular fortitude for these two drivers at the top to stretch it out on these treacherous conditions here. Goodness me, I tell you what, absolutely talented driving by these two to be able to tough it out. Because, goodness me, this just looks difficult, never mind having to drive it. Meanwhile, this battle for the 4th spot, remember, everything back from 3rd back is truly a battle for position. They're all on at least 3 seconds of penalty. Shiraya, the only one at a disadvantage, although he currently 34.5 seconds behind Gab. So the closest battle on track at the moment, currently between Pingolo and Slayer Eyes for the 4th spot. Both drivers on the full wets. 1 second separating the two. 6 laps to go this time by. Lancey and Reimer yet again decide to stay out. It's a 3-second gap between those two. Fireballer 3 laps ago was at 25 seconds. He's now within 19. Oh, that's a big slide from Slayer Eyes, and he holds on, and then Pingolo's gonna slide anyways. So Fireball is definitely gaining time here. But it's not really at a rate that's worth coming in for the two atop. It really isn't. Plus, he's got 3 seconds of penalties anyways. I think that's the reason driving Lancey and Reimer to not come in here. Is just considering a Fireballer's not really gaining any time on them, and he also has the penalty. Yeah, that's got to be it, really. Otherwise, they would have stopped already, right? They would have taken that risk and decided to put on the full wets. Because it does seem as if they are, at the very least, more stable in the intermediates right now. I'm not sure quicker. Let's go along with Lancey here. Oh, that's a big slide again. He's held on. Into turn 13. Full tilt on the steering wheel. Oh, look how tentative he is on the throttle. Wheel spin to 4th. Finally is able to get the pedal down. And a big lockup on the way into 14. Fireballer now 17.5 seconds. The Puddle's still on track here. 5 laps to go this time by. And it looks as if, and we're going to go back along with Pingolo here, as he is still within the second of Sleigh Rise. Remember, once again, it's a battle for position from anyone third on back. Because of the accumulated penalties from everybody barring Lancey and Reimer. 0.8 of a second. And closing. Oh, that's a mistake from Slayer Eyes. Down to the inside is Pingolo, and he's made it happen. And suddenly, the rain has gotten a lot lighter, it has to be said. I say and suddenly. The conditions for the full wets, I think, are certainly beginning to pass. The rain is, I don't want to say hardly coming down anymore, but it's certainly a lot less than what it was a couple of laps ago. Yep. As it turns out, it wasn't a mistake. It was a perfect calculation from Lancey and Reimer to stay out, because as you can see, the track, while there's still standing water, it will be drying out here shortly. For the time being, it's still 0.4 of a second between these two for the 4th spot. In towards turn 7. The Slayer Eyes have enough to get back at Pingolo here. It looks as if he's really been struggling with the car. That was a wiggle on the entry from both drivers, actually, as it turns out. 0.9 of a second. It looks as if Slayer Eyes may have him on the straight line, but everywhere else in the corners, Pingolo looks just that slight bit more stable. I'll tell you what, though, at the moment it looks as if Fireball is still gaining time. Not enough to challenge for position here, but enough for, at the moment, the wets still being the preferred tire, I'd say. Although I don't think it's going to be that way in a couple of laps' time. 0.9 of a second here between these two. 4 laps to go now, and Lancey has amassed a 3.5 second lead over Reimer behind. And unless penalties are accumulated, it looks as if the Dutchman may just find himself a 2nd consecutive race win. Oh, the battle here for 4th spot. Oh, big slide from Slayer Eyes, and he holds on. Another good catch from Slayer Eyes. As you can see, he is really struggling with that car, and now Fireballer now. Well, I said he was going to be losing time. It does kind of look as if it's really going backwards here for the Williams. That was really the indicator, was how close was he getting. Yellow flag, Lancey, 3-second time penalty. Well, the yellow flag is for the McLaren of Gab, who has lost, the entirety of his front wing coming out of the 17th corner. Thankfully, it's off to the inside of the track, and I don't believe we're going to be getting any virtual safety car. No, we won't. However, the big story now, Lancey has made a mistake, and the door is open for Reimer. Teetering on the inside and outside of 3 seconds. Remember, if Reimer at this point is within 3 seconds of Lancey, he will take the win. But with 3.5 laps to go, anything is still possible, and it's still 3.1. Suddenly, this is a big turn of events here. Lancey, I don't want to say is on the ropes, but Reimer's job just got a whole lot easier. In fact, I would actually say now he has a job, considering how just a lap ago, Lancey was about, 3-4 seconds ahead. And now Reimer, despite still being 3 seconds behind, is within 1/10 of taking the win. 3 laps to go. Yellow flag, Gab has retired. This coming out of turn 4. And he has found the inside of the track, I believe getting on the throttle. The front wing is gone, and it's still in the center. Oh my god, Lancey has just ran over that piece of debris. Don't tell me he's going to pick up a puncture from that. He has cleanly ran over it. For now, everything looks okay, but goodness me. If Lancey doesn't pick up a puncture from that, he'll actually be quite lucky, because he's completely ran over the end plate. Oh, and I believe he's actually just hit the wall there. And I think Reimer's made equally amount of mistake here, because he now finds himself outside of 5.2. not long ago, he was looking at a potential to win this race, and now... Yeah, tell you what. Looking as if Reimer may have missed his chance. Six drivers remain on track. Lancey, our leader, Reimer second, Fireballer third, Pingola fourth, Slayerized fifth, and Shariah sixth. Shariah about to be lapped here by Lancey. Look at Lancey try to get back on the throttle there. So shifty. And coming upon here, 2 laps to go. .7 seconds, and unless something happens here, I think Lancey may be just looking at his second consecutive win. 2 laps to go here in Singapore. And if you're curious about the NFL game going on at the moment, Seahawks lead the Giants 21-3 with 10 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the 4th quarter. I hear Daniel Jones has not had himself a good game. Geno Smith hurt. Drew Lock coming on. Drew Lock 2 for 5, so maybe Geno has come back on, but and yeah, Geno Smith has returned from the knee injury. For the penultimate time, Lancey... Oh, boy, that was a good wiggle. Goodness minute. Goodness me. Jeez. I want to say Lancey's struggling with the car. He's had himself a couple of close moments here. But now on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. Lancey... Oh. Hold on just a minute. We've had Slayerized overtake Pingolo. Pingola on 6 seconds of penalty. Tell you what, both cars struggling here on the full wets. Pingola might be having a move, trying to find the right side. Doesn't happen. Again, Pingola on 6 seconds of penalty. He doesn't really have any right to be going this hard for Slayerized here unless he makes a mistake. And there might be the mistake. Yeah, Slayerized has gotten overtaken by Pingola here. Granted, it's only about a second. And he needs 3 seconds to stay ahead as far as the penalties are concerned with the timing. Lancey making his way through Sector 2 now for the final time. On a day which, well, it wasn't as dominant as he had in Monza. There were times where he legitimately looked an underdog for this race. But at the end of the day, he's played his risks, and he's played the strategy absolutely to a T. And if he does eventually go on to win this race, he will have absolutely deserved it. Because I tell you what, he stayed really a full stint on track when he could have gone to the full wets. He stayed on the intermediates. I thought it was a mistake, although the entire time he looked in complete control. Control of the car may have been more difficult than control of the race that he's had today through the 3rd sector for the final time. Lancey will be going back-to-back here. He did it at Monza. He will do it again here in Singapore around the final 2 corners. The Dutchman Lancey and the Aston Martin back-to-back win here as he wins the Singapore Grand Prix here in the Monkey Mafia Esports League. Reimer's given a great attempt, crashes and finishes second. And the fireworks in the rainy night sky going off somewhere. Can't quite see them. Are they even... Yeah, I hear fireworks. I don't see them. Fireballer, I tell you what, was kind of the guinea pig with the wet tires, and he comes home to finish on the podium. And he's deserved it too. Great result for him. Pingolo will be coming back around in 4th, and it looks as if he will end up keeping the spot over Slayerized. Hitting some debris on the way. Slayerized coming home to finish 5th, Shariah eventually in 6th. Next week, the league heads to the Silverstone circuit for round 3 of the Monkey Mafia Esports League. Once again, it's Lancey taking the top spot, Reimer 2nd, Fireballer 3rd, Pingolo 4th, Slayerized 5th, and Shariah Coleslaw will eventually come across the line here at 6th. Unfortunately for Gab, Edwin and Beamer, I know, definitely had technical problems. Gab didn't finish. Edwin, Gazboy, Beamer, Cynical, George Mazdaguy, and Osmanian Devil did not have themselves a Grand Prix to remember tonight. And as Shariah finishes it off here, Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining you this time out. We'll see you next week in Silverstone.